Alright, scenario. You are currently obsessed with board games. You can't stop talking about them, and all your friends are getting really sick of you mumbling about worker placement and Ameritrash, and I just needed one more turn. Finally, a few of them give in and say that they'll give it a try if you promise to shut up about it. Now, you're totally excited about this, so you look at your game collection and try to find something to play, but what do you choose?
I'm Tony.
And I'm Luna.
And welcome to Chicken Soup for the Roll. Today we have 5 important tips when choosing a board game to introduce someone to the hobby. But first, a disclaimer. Some of these tips might not apply depending on who it is you're introducing to board games. Now for the tips. First is theme.
Hey Tony, want to play Agricola?
What's that?
It's a game where you start out as a lowly peasant farmer, and throughout the game you try to become a slightly less lowly peasant farmer. There's nothing that can excite new gamers like a good theme, or bore them like a bad one. Now, I'm not saying that Agricola is a bad game, but it's definitely not something you should start with for a variety of reasons, including its theme. No one's going to play the game I just described unless they're doing it ironically, for the same reasons you would watch Tommy Wiseau's The Room or vote for Donald Trump. There are plenty of games with good themes, and we'll get to those in a second. Tip number 1, pick a game with a good theme. Okay, I guess Agricola didn't work out, but how about Arkham Horror? It's a game where you're all investigators trying to keep Cthulhu or another ancient one from awakening.
That sounds fun. How long does it take?
Only 2 to 5 hours plus setup time.
Long board games require a certain kind of mental stamina that new board gamers just don't have. Being able to get through a game like Arkham Horror, or Twilight Imperium 3, or Campaign for North Africa is a learned skill. You definitely need to work your way up and acclimate to longer games. Completing a game of Arkham Horror is an achievement and should be celebrated, but such achievements are not easily attained by those new to the hobby. When introducing someone to modern board games, you want the game to end with them still wanting more, rather than them wanting to get bored halfway through the game. Tip number 2, pick a shorter game.
Okay, so I guess Arkham Horror is out, but how about one of the expansions for Catan, maybe Cities and Nights? You've probably heard of Catan before, right?
That sounds reasonable. How do you play?
Well, it's like Catan, except...
When you begin the game, you start with a 7 in a city instead of 2 stones. You put the city first. And whenever hexes with the number is rolled by a city, instead of getting 2 resources, you get 1 resource and 1 corresponding commodity. It's coin for ore, paper for wood, and cloth for sheep. And if it's bread or wheat, you still just get 2. You can use those commodities to buy improvements on one of those parts. And you flip through them. The first improvement costs 1 of that commodity, second costs 2, and so on. You use those commodities because those improvements by rolling the dice because you roll an extra third dice, a white die, with 3 sides for having the black barbarian sides, and then 1 side for each commodity. And whenever that is rolled, and the red die number that appears on your card, you would get a special progress card, which is the new development card that's cooler and very much more complicated. Now let's talk about 9.
As you probably know, nothing can ruin a new board gamer's first experience than an overly complicated game. The human brain is only capable of taking in so much information at once, and for a new gamer, an extended rules explanation can turn an otherwise great game into an extremely boring game night. Instead, you should pick a game that you can explain in a relatively short amount of time, or one where you can explain some of the rules as you go. Tip number 3, pick a game that's not too complex. So I guess Catan Cities and Nights is a bit too complicated for tonight, but how about Munchkin? It's a fantasy card game, you fight monsters, and first level 10 wins.
Yeah, my cousin Gary actually.
Great, let's try it.
Okay, I gotta kick down the door. Level 1 part of the... Yes, my final level. It's gonna be so easy.
You are level 9, strength what?
9, 11, 13, 16, 21.
21 versus
21.
1. 21 versus 6. 21 versus 8, 21 versus 11, 21 versus 14, 21 versus 17, 21 versus 27. What are you going to do?
Okay, well, let's see. We got 23 versus 27, 26, 29 versus 27.
32 versus 27. Or 29. 32 versus 29, yes.
Yes. Then that's 34.
Versus 32. Curse, lose a level, curse, lose a level, curse, lose your armor, curse, lose one small item, lose your class, lose your footgear, lose the headgear, and wandering monster with plutonium dragon. Suck it.
No! Munchkin, while it may be a good game, is not a good game to play with those new to these kinds of games. The experience gap usually makes it so that one player easily dominates until the end. Then everyone plays all their cards on them so that the second place player wins. Though the cards may be entertaining the first time, it's very formulaic and can ruin friendships. It can also ruin the whole concept of modern games to a beginner who loses. That's why we recommend games with cooperative elements or team elements for new gamers, so that you may lose, but you lose together. Tip number 4, pick a game with cooperative elements.
Okay, so Munchkin was a bust, but how about Pandemic? It's got a nice theme. You're all trying to save the world from a bunch of diseases. It's not too long, not too complex, and it's cooperative, which means we all work together.
Wait, that's a thing?
Okay, so if you go to Lima, and I can give you Lima, you can plop down a research station, and then here blue, and we win. Yes!
Did we really win? No, you just told me what to do the entire time. Really?
While cooperative games are quite fun, they can easily turn into one person determining everything that people do, while the others just sit back and watch. That doesn't sound very fun for anyone other than the leader. When there are differing levels of experience in a cooperative game, that can happen quite often. That's why we recommend cooperative games with a mechanic that can give players a reason to interact with each other and listen to each other, whether that's a defector, some sort of vote, or something else along those lines, which brings us to our personal recommendation. Now we have our good friend Eve here to help us with the rules explanation for our recommended game, The Resistance.
Hi, I'm Eve. For those of you who don't know, The Resistance is a game in which you are all members of a resistance cell against an oppressive dystopian government. But some of you are actually government spies trying to sabotage the resistance from within. It's a very straightforward game where the resistance tries to figure out who the spies are, and the spies try not to be found. It's very enjoyable, very social, and pretty quick.
A game of resistance starts with everyone being dealt a roll card. There are a certain number of spies in the deck, in that deck of roll cards, depending on the number of players. Resistance members cards are blue, while spies cards are red.
Once everyone knows which role they are, someone tells everyone to close their eyes. They then tell the spies to open their eyes and make eye contact so that they know who the other spies are. The person speaking then tells the spies to close their eyes, then waits about 10 seconds for their eyes to adjust to being closed. So that way, people can't tell who is and isn't a spy by whether their eyes are dilated when they open. Finally, the speaker tells everyone to open their eyes. Now that the setup is done with, it's time to begin the game.
One person starts as the leader of the mission. They choose a number of players shown on the card that goes on that mission by handing out the gun tokens. The decision of which gun goes to which person is irrelevant and yet really fun because you get to give the lamest person the lamest gun. Obviously, this gun is the best one. So, it's very important to maintain morale and show who you trust by giving them the cooler guns. Everyone then publicly votes on whether they approve or reject that team. And so you have an approve or reject. And if the team is rejected, the vote tracker moves on one space down the line. If 5 mission teams are rejected in a row, the spies win. If the mission is approved, it moves back to the first place and the team goes on the mission.
Here's where things get interesting. Each player on the mission gets a success and a fail card. They each get to choose which one to play for that mission. Well, kind of. Resistance members don't really get a choice. They have to play a success card. Spies, on the other hand, can choose whether they want to play a success or a fail card. If, in that mission, there is even one fail card, the spies win that round. If all of them are success, on the other hand, the resistance wins. The first team to win any 3 rounds wins the game.
Almost every time I've played the Resistance, everyone has wanted to play a second or even a third time. If you want to get your friends hooked on gaming, this is the game I recommend. Now to Tony with the traffic.
Thanks, Luna. The highway to Resistance City consists entirely of carpool lanes that require between 5 and 10 people in your vehicle. If you have less than that, or somehow more, Resistance is not for you. If you have between those 2 numbers, then you're good to go. Just get on your way. Now back to you at the studio, Tony. Thanks, Tony. Like Luna said, Resistance is a great game that can be hard to stop playing. Although there could be some problems with playing multiple times, as sometimes the same players are spies, so they don't get a chance to play both sides.
And there's nothing like being a terrible liar and having a spy card 5 games in a row.
It wasn't
Hashtag
you, Eve.
me! So, hi, I'm Eve again. And I am a slight novice to the board game world. Really, the only serious experience I have is these 2. So when they talked about playing the Resistance, I was kind of a little bit nervous about it because it was us and it was a couple of other friends too on a game night we were having. And the way Luna was describing it, I was like, I don't know what's going on. So, but I pushed through and we started playing and it was awesome and I loved it. It's one of my favorite games. It's pretty quick, so it's one of those kind of buffer games between something that's really long like Catan or Arkham Horror and another a really long game too.
Campaign for North Africa.
There you go.
Yeah. You got your multiple weeks long game.
And so it's a really good kind of everybody game. If you have people who are not super into board games and people who are super into board games, it's a really nice kind of medium game, and pretty much after you play it a couple of times people get it. It's really good for actors, hashtag me, us, because you get to lie about being a spy, which I really suck at. So, it's good practice. It's really, really fun. So, I think everybody can enjoy this game, and I certainly do.
However, that's not to say there aren't any problems with the game.
True.
One of my least favorite things about the Resistance is that on these cards, one of them says success, the other says fail. Success is a noun, fail is a verb. Should be success and failure, or succeed and fail. Get it together. Don Estridge. Get it together, Don Estridge.
Get it together, Don.
We are disappointed in you.
Get it together. Jeez.
So if you want to send us a reprint of something, that would be
we'd be about that life.
Totally.
But seriously, if our biggest problem about this game is grammar, I think it's a pretty good game.
I'd have to agree. I think it's really, really fun.
And we get angry easily about grammar. It's not normal. It's really not.
It's the grammar Nazis, You get it. You get it.
Anyways, we are Chicken Soup for the Roll with special guest Eve, and we would like to recommend The Resistance. Tell us in the comments what you think is the best introductory game, and we might respond in a later video. Thanks for watching, and we are Chicken Soup for the Roll.
Bye!
Bye!